Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, this is Kholifah and I'm here with my friends Ade Fairuz bring you a story about someone very familiar to listener of Story Nori, that is Katie. Katie is a witch and can do magic spell. She likes to keep that a secret as far as possible. Katie lives with her mom, who is also a witch, and her dad lived separately because her parents couldn't get along with each other when so much magical stuff was going down. The story involves a sport of bedwetters and, of course, a magic spell. So, listen up. It was spring, the most magical times of year, when everyone should be out and about smiling in the gentle sunshine, listening to the birds and admiring the bright flowers, but Katie and her mom were huddled at home. Even though they had turned the central heating up high, it still felt cold in their kitchen. The wind was whistling, and the door of the garden shed was lost and slamming loudly in the garden. "Katie!" exclaimed her mother suddenly. "Why don't you lock the door before it smashes?" Katie snapped her fingers, and the shed door closed fast. "Mom, why are you in such a terrible mood? Have you agreed with Samash?" Inside, he was her mother's boyfriend, who had not quite got around to marrying her because his parents were unsure if a single mom who was a witch was a good match for their darling son. "I'm not in a bad mood," instead her mother. "I just don't like you being lazy." "But mom, you could have closed it easily as I did." "I can do everything, you know," exclaimed her mother, exasperated. Usually, her mother kept a very even temper, but, of course, everyone has their mood now and then. Kitty went up to her room to stay out of her way. As she fell asleep, the wind was whooshing around the roof and the house, howling like a dozen witches on broomsticks. She woke up in the small hours to the sound of tiles smashing in the garden. The wind was flinging them off the roof. She lay awake, listening to the storm and thinking how powerful nature was, even compared to the most potent magic. Soon the wind died down, and the rain began beating the room heavily at first, and then more gently. The pitter-patter finally lulled her to sleep. When Kitty woke up in the morning, birds were singing. She drew the curtains and saw that it was going to be a bright and lovely day. As Kitty was leaving for school, her mother said, "Hang on, darling, I'll give you a lift." "In the car?" she said. "Sorry, I was in such a full mood last night." "Don't worry, Mom," said Kitty. "I expect it was the weather. It affects how we feel, you know," said her mom. "Sometimes how we feel affects the weather. We witches have to be careful about that. It can be difficult to tell which way round things are happening." Later on at school, when Katie's attention drifted off in the geography lesson, she wondered what her mom had meant by the remark. Was it true that a witch mood could make the weather? She hadn't heard that before, but it was entirely possible because people with the magical power are very connected to nature. "I know," she thought. "I'll try and make the sun come out from behind that big black cloud." She concentrated very hard, but nothing seemed to change in the sky. And then she heard Mr. Priest saying, "Kitty, what is the spot where in the greatest damage usually happens in an earthquake?" Kitty processed the question for a moment before replying. "The epicenter," a word she had learned in her homework at the weekend. As she answered, the sky outside the window went very dark, and she half expected outside the window the earth to shake, but it didn't. Thankfully, when Katy got home, her mother was in the kitchen stirring the sour soup. "Hi, Mom," raised Katy. "Hello, Katy," said her mother without turning around. "I hope you had a lovely day." "It was so-so," replied Katy, because most school days were so-so. "Well, that's nice to know," said her mother. Her comment did not seem to follow on from what Katy had said. "How was your day at the shop?" asked Katy, and that was when her mother burst into tears. "What's the matter, Mom?" asked Katy as she put her hand on her craven shoulder. After a lot of sobbing, her mother said, "Samish has told me he cannot go against his parents, even though he is 43 years old." The news was not entirely unexpected, but her mother's pain seemed intense, and it was hard for Betty to see her so upset. She did her best to comfort her and made her a cup of calming witch tea. Eventually, her mother went to bed, and Katy sat thinking, and at the kitchen table, Solomon came in through the cat flap, and she noticed that he was leaving with wet paw marks on the floor. "It must be raining," said Katy. "Brilliant," purred Solomon. "That explains why those drops of water are falling out the sky. Oral cat so sarcastic," asked Katy. "No, it's just a special talent I have," replied Solomon. A streak of light flashed in the sky, and a few seconds later thunder boomed over the rooftops. "Not a good night to be flying by broomsticks," said Katy with a shudder. It was still raining in the morning. It wasn't the soft rain that gently gives life to the earth while the sun plays in its droplets and paints rainbow in the sky. No, this was the hard stuff. Cold bolts of water floated in the puddles and poured down the beds of cold color. And so it continued. The weather followed the same routine the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Of course, Katy wondered if her mom was driving the weather. What? But she didn't like to ask because her mom always seemed to be on the brink of tears. The following Monday, it was still raining. It somebody pushed a cart and somebody pushed a cart through the letterbox with red words written in the light letters. "Flood warning." Katy and her mom lived about 2 streets away from the river. Their home was in a slip dip, and there was a real possibility of the river paying them a visit through the front door. On Friday, Katy was due to dinner with her dad and his girlfriend, Bianca. Normally, she can show up and the hill to the university area where he worked and lived. As it was pouring with rain, he came to pick her up in the car.
Awful weather we have been having, he said as he turned the windscreen wipers onto fast speed. Yes, awful, agreed Katie. How was your mom been? A bit down, said Katie. Anything in particular? Just the weather, said Katie. She thought it would not be discreet to tell her dad all about her mom's heartbreak over smash. When they reached her dad's flat, he put his key in the lock and said, "Things are a bit chaotic at the moment. I'm in between office and I have had to stash my equipment at home until I move into the new place." The following Monday, it was still raining. Katie soon saw that the corridor was full of boxes. In fact, there were boxes filled up in all the rooms, even the bedroom. Katie knew that most of them contained all sorts of magical equipment. Although her father had no powers of his own, he, he investigated the supernatural in his job at the university. He was a professor of paranormal studies. She noticed jars with labels such as wine, dried flower pecker dung, and burned donkey hoof clippings in the kitchen. "I hope that Bianca knows not to throw them into the stir fry," joked Katie. Bianca was her dad's girlfriend. "Fortunately, her cooking is pretty conservative," said Dad. "But the other day she knocked over a jar I had stored on the bedroom stove, and it smashed. I'm a little concerned that some magical powers might have escaped." They went into the sitting room with their tea, sat down in the comfy chairs, and he told her a story. "Back in the day, when I was courting your mother, I persuaded her to take part in the experiment. I want to see if she could change the weather purely through the force of her magical willpower. So, throughout history, people have accused witches of the causing the influence." She didn't want to try at first. She, she seemed to think it was not ethical. I told her that it was all good in the name of scientific inquiry. Eventually, she agreed, but she warned me that I might regret it. We were on a country drive, and I said something that upset her, a tactless remark about witches, and she started to boil and rage at me. I know it's hard to imagine, but her anger was out of control. Almost immediately, the sky went dark. There was a clap of thunder. I swear the steering wheel and the car ended up in a ditch. Fortunately, we were not severely hurt, and and a kind farmer pulled us out with his tractor. Another time, we went to a university party where she was chatting to a history professor. He made a joke, and she called us out loud. She went to a giggling for an hour, and we had to leave. It was so warm. beautiful evening, almost tropical, and the sky was full of shooting stars as we lit the house. You might think that was a lovely, but here's the problem. It was Christmas party. So eventually, we agreed that put the experiment on hold. It was all too much trouble. Your mother helped me fasten up her spell with crystal jar. It stayed there safely this past 20 years, but because of this ugly move, I brought it home and left it on the shelf in the bedroom. Bianca knocked it over when he was cleaning her teeth, and it cracked open the floor with all his terrible weather we have been having. I just wondered if it might have got back to your mother. Said Kathy. I think you might be on to do something there, Dad. I will ask Mom about it. Later on, when Dad drove Kathy home, the road in the town were starting to look like rivers. In one dip, a giant wave splashed head off over the windscreen. Katie wondered, did my mom's emotion really cause this? When they reached the house, her dad pulled on his green wheels and carried Katie across the flooded front garden. Her mother opened the front door and laughed, and for a brief moment the rain seemed to stop before continuing the downpour. When they were in the kitchen, Katie explained how Bianca had broken a jar and released an old weather spell. Here, her mother sighed and said, I should be angry, but actually it's a real to know what is going on. I felt like somebody had put a spell on me, but I could not understand who would do such a thing. It turns out that it's my own spell. Now I know what to do. In the morning, when the kitty woke up, she lay awake for a while before she realized that the birds were singing loudly. She peeked through the curtain and saw a glistening street with a rainbow stretch over the sky. Mom, Kitty called out. You broke the spell. The sun's shining. But when Kitty saw her mother on the landing, looking sleepy but happy in her dressing gown, she learned the truth. Her mom said, actually, darling, I haven't broke the spell yet. The thing is, too much sent me a breathtaking state, and I had simply the most relaxed sleep and lovely dream. That is probably why the weather is so much better. That is fantastic news, Kat said. You know what I want you to be happy, Mom. So please do break the spell as soon as possible before he sends you a message that makes you annoyed. We don't need any more rain for a while. You are right, Kathy. I shall. I promise. Just as soon as I get to work. But oh, what a lovely day it is. Okay, and that was a story of Katie and the Weather Spell, written by Bertie and read by me and Istami. We hope that you like this story, Nori, and will listening to the other story, Nori. Okay, thank you for listening to us and see you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Nah, dah siap dah.
Mau stop recordingnya?